The Man with the Golden Arm follows Frankie, played by Frank Sinatra, a former drug addict who tries to get himself clean after being released from prison. He tries to get some honest work as a drummer, but he quickly finds out that his old life isn't completely behind him yet, as the re-emergence of his old drug dealer and a small-time con man threaten to turn him back to a life of addiction. So every musician everywhere, really.
It's like a real party or something.
The movie was based on the Nelson Algren novel of the same name from 1949, with the film rights initially being procured by actor John Garfield, as he intended to star in the lead role. However, things were delayed because the Production Code Authority refused to approve the script, feeling that the Frank depiction of drug abuse and trafficking was unacceptable to show on screen.
It makes me look bad.
Following Garfield's death, the rights were acquired from his estate by Otto Preminger, who planned to direct the picture, having been attracted to the story's heavy themes of tragedy and addiction. Originally, the author was set to adapt his own book for the screen. However, he and Preminger did not get along at all, leading to the director later replacing him with Walter Newman as screenwriter, which upset Algren greatly, as the change resulted in a great deal of the novel's plot being altered.
Yeah, that's real class.
Frank Sinatra was eager to sign on for the film and jumped at a chance to star even before reading the entire script, though the part was also offered to Marlon Brando, who turned it down. To prepare for the role, Sinatra spent time at drug rehabilitation clinics observing addicts who were trying to quit by going cold turkey, and he was also taught to play the drums by Shelly Manne.
Yeah.
The Man with the Golden Arm was released on December the 11th, 1955, and was controversial upon release, primarily for its bleak and realistic depiction of drug use, which had never really been done before. Nonetheless, it grossed $4.1 million worldwide and was well liked by critics, many praising the dark tone and Sinatra's performance. And it's not particularly hard to see why this one is in the book. Not only does it include some incredible long takes for its time, and somehow inspired the likes of Spider-Man.
Who is landlord? Me! You do like I say!
Frankie machine!
And Draco Malfoy. And Home Alone.
Would I go back on my word?
How much do I owe you?
But it's a great social commentary on drug addiction. The pure balls it took to discuss such a taboo subject of its time, and in such a graphic way, is incredibly impressive. The performance is insane, and Sinatra does come across as a broken man throughout the entire film. The pure desperation he falls into to try to get his hands on any drug whatsoever is so hard to watch at points. Even if it contains a huge pet peeve of mine when someone tries to prove their anxiety by showing how shaky their hand is, as if they're not fully able to control their own hand at that point. Look guys, look, I'm terrified, look! The acting all across the board is fantastic. His wife doesn't want him going back out on the road, so she pretends to remain disabled, forcing him to stay home. But it does lead to some funny scenes, like when she is forced to receive treatment she clearly doesn't need to. And the musical score is great throughout the film too. I'm also not entirely sure if this is an accurate depiction of the 1950s, because as far as I'm aware,
I wish it was Monday already.
is something that has never been uttered by a human being ever. The movie often shifts between his drug rehabilitation and his passion for becoming a drummer, and it makes sense because his addiction starts to cause issues with his music, to where he can no longer perform. But initially I was far more invested in his battles with drugs than his passion for drumming, until the two stories kind of become interspersed. But if it is in fact an accurate depiction of the 1950s, not only does the word Frankie get used far too many times, but it just seems everyone says everyone's name any chance they get.
Molly, listen, will you please? Let me tell you what happened. Where you going, Molly? Tell me, where you going? No, Molly! Molly!
The movie builds up to an epic moment where his wife shoves a guy down the stairs, but it's hard to take it too seriously when it's so obviously a dummy. But the truth is, I'm unsure how else they could have possibly shot it in 1955. And when questioned about the incident, she quickly proves that she is the worst liar alive.
While you were sleeping, Frankie shoved him over.
He didn't.
How do you know if you were sleeping?
Wasn't I was sleeping more like dozing, kind of. I'd have heard a fight if there was one. Frankie didn't do it. He wasn't even here.
When wasn't he here?
When it happened.
How can you be sure if you was dozing?
I was up when he left.
Unfortunately, the movie does end with her death, but it's treated incredibly impromptu. Well, she's dead. Anyway, the movie is a fantastic commentary on the dangers of drug addiction and how it can completely corrupt one's life and well-being. The acting is top-notch, and I hugely respect the daring nature to have pulled something off like this in that particular era, when things like this were scarcely discussed in private, let alone a public, theatrically released feature film. The Man with the Golden Arm is certainly worth checking out.